All right, I put the word out for a spring Q&A or AMA or whatever you want to call it. I've been collecting these, so I'll go over them as I get them, which means I'll probably go from my kitchen to my office to my living room to wherever I get them at and decide that I want to shoot something. So get ready for an adventure. All right, Tony IV6UG said top 3 underrated modern horror films. Top 3 underrated horror movies. I guess more modern, I would say Barbarian, Lake Mungo, and The Autopsy of Jane Doe. Because it would be easy to say, like, Hereditary or The Witch or something like that. But those aren't really underrated. Those are pretty well-known movies. Let's see. Thomas Hernandez 6536 said, "What was your favorite Spice Girl?" I actually really like the Spice Girl. I think the movie's great. My favorite was Ginger Spice because I used to have a thing for redheads. I don't anymore, but I still like Ginger Spice. And then Ross Hall 6475 said, "What was it like for the first time you pumped your own gas?" Well, so I'm from New Jersey, where someone comes out and pumps your gas for you. But my first ever job was at a gas station. But I knew how to pump gas before that because my dad used to let me pump gas. Like, he'd show me how to do it, and then, we'd go to the gas station. He's like, "All right, you want to pump the gas?" So it's funny when friends come to visit Pennsylvania and they don't know how to pump gas because they're Jersey people. So it's not difficult. It wasn't difficult. It's just funny when people from New Jersey come here and be like, "Wait, we have to pump our own gas?" I'm like, "Yeah, man." All right, let's see. Kevin the Collector 818 said, "Do you see movies using film stock again, and the resurgence of film labs and the rise of the return of the grindhouse again?" I don't see film making a comeback beyond the Chris Nolans or the Quentin Tarantino's, people like that who studios basically can't say no to. The roadshow stuff I think is very interesting. I don't see it being a viable way forward for the future. The film labs, I feel like I'd like to see more things go to like a true form IMAX. We saw Sinners in the real IMAX, which was pretty awesome. Those larger format screens, I think, is how you get people to keep coming back to the movies, is by giving them an immersive experience without doing all that bullshit 4DX stuff where like the smoke fills the screen and the seats move and all that shit. Now, do I see a return to the grindhouse again? I was literally having this conversation last night. You look at times of economic downturn and people are looking for cheap thrills. And I feel like maybe not the grindhouse cinema per se, because grindhouse really just means a theater that just like was showing wall-to-wall films. It was just grinding, that became a connotation of the kind of films that would play in the inner cities would be kung fu movies, exploitation movies, sex movies, whatever you can exploit that you could run cheap and continue running. Now, that also ties to, I think the B movie or the Z movie will have its day again in the era of a economic downturn, because people are looking for cheap thrills. And as long as I think if producers can make movies that are memeable, they can catch people based on the title or based on the concept, and that's kind of what we've been trying to do. But you look at something like a Velocipaster or Snakes on a Plane or Sharknado or something like that, these movies that are kind of getting known just because of their title is so bizarre that people are willing to give it a chance. And in a time when there is less money to spend and you don't have to go to the theater for it, and you can get it on streaming cheap or a Tubi or something like that. So I feel like while it's not true grindhouse, it is that kind of exploitation B movie ballyhoo. I feel will have its day again soon. And I think that you've noticed it anytime that like I said, anytime the economy has its issues, those kind of movies find a way to fill that spot. So, here's hoping for me. Let's see. Dendo Star 5436 is the last one for this one, and he says, "What action movies do you think should be considered actual quality films?" For me, it's Die Hard and Demolition Man. Both great movies. I actually prefer Die Hard with a Vengeance is my favorite one. But like you know, pure action movie. Terminator 2 is a spectacle film, but it's also like a good film as well. You know, but you can say like again, The Empire Strikes Back, you know, Jurassic Park, you know, or you go something like The Raid, those type of movies. Like just because it is of a genre doesn't mean that it also can't be a good film. You know, there's they say that about horror. Like again, we just saw Sinners, great horror movie, but it also is just a great film as well. So, you know, it's that distinction of how low the bar has been set when it comes to certain things. Like, I love mindless crap. You know, I'll watch Cobra or Commando or, you know, anything like that. But it is cool when a filmmaker goes the extra 9 and makes an actual, like, film, you know, and that's kind of the problem with the Marvel movies of late, is that they all just kind of look the same, and there is no distinction anymore between them, so it's hard to say it's a film. It's a product by committee, and that's the worst part. So that's it for this round. We'll have more coming up, hopefully, and then I'll get you guys on the next one. Got more questions. Here we go. Matt Movies 611 said, "Do you think you will ever get an original film from James Cameron again, or will we just make Avatar movies until he retires?" I think it's just Avatar movies for now on. He's got, like, I think because of the money that they make, why bother doing anything else? Kind of lame, because he always talks about the other types of films that he would love to make, but doesn't do it. And then I'm sure he could produce stuff. I'd love to see another Alita Battle Angel. That one really surprised me. But I think we're just going to get Avatar movies, and then we'll probably see his name on stuff. I'm sure he'll add his name to whatever the next Terminator movie is, just so they'll back up a big truck full of money. All right, we got one more here at Drew P. Nutsack. If you could turn yourself into one food dish and eat yourself to death, what would it be? That's a good question. I never thought anyone would ask me that. Sushi. Because I like it raw. All right, we got one from Patreon. Hunter Armstrong asked, "Have you always been a cat person? Have you had a cat before?" Didn't have them growing up. When I moved from Tucson back to the Philadelphia area, I took one of my dad properties at the time, and they had a cat named Jake, who was around there, and I took care of that cat. That was a cool cat. He was a lot more like a dog. And then my ex-girlfriend Amber got a cat during Hurricane Sandy named Tora, and she still has Tora, actually. I just saw her back in, I don't know, back in September maybe. And when she lived with me, we took care of that cat. Always been more of a dog person my entire life, but obviously I don't have the space or the time for a dog. My cat, Elvira, I've had since 2017. I think I've told this story before. When I had the Anthony Wayne Theater, we had a shared dumpster between us and a Mexican restaurant called Matador. It was out the door to Theater 2. It was in the alleyway, and it was like a really, really bad snowstorm that we were having, and the business has been shit because we weren't into the holiday season yet. And I heard squeaking inside the dumpster as I was taking the trash out, and I was like, I really can't fucking afford right now to get the exterminator back out here if we have an issue. And when I looked in the dumpster, it was 2 little baby kittens that were essentially thrown away. So I jumped into the dumpster. I took off my my Real Cinemas hoodie and wrapped them in it, and I drove them to the emergency room. And the lady at the emergency room was like, "They're cats, dude. Like, what do you want me to do?" So I took them home, and I had them both for a while. Her I've still had. Him, he passed away from, I guess the weather and all that kind of stuff. He had like a neurological issue, so he passed away. But I've had her all this time, and I like. It's weird. Like, cats are cats. They don't really need you. They don't really want you. They want you on their terms. So, you know, but she's cool. You know, it's weird to say she's my best friend, but I do enjoy having her there, and I can't sleep if she's not like, you know, in bed with me or something like that. And I don't know. I like her. I like her a lot. I love her. I love my stupid cat. Um, you know, and yeah, and I'm gonna be destroyed when she passes away because that's well, I'll probably die before her. But eventually, I do want to get a dog, because they are a bit more like, you know, there emotionally. But Elvira's cool. She's, you know, she's my buddy. She's right here sitting in front of me. Whenever I'm standing in the kitchen, she thinks she's gonna get treats, so I'll eventually have to give her something. All right, we got another one. Hot Creamy Fart. What's up, man? Asked, does Terminator 1 qualify as a slasher flick, and is Sarah Connor a final girl? Sarah Connor is a final girl, but it is not a slasher flick because there is no slashing in it. It's more heavy metal, artillery type of stuff, so I don't consider it a slasher movie because it doesn't use the implements of a slasher film. But that doesn't mean that it's not a fantastic horror sci-fi film. I consider it a horror film, just not a slasher movie. And then the last one is from uh, uh, Dillinger Garouette, 1502. What dish would you serve all of us to showcase your cooking skills? I can't cook. I have zero cooking ability whatsoever. I know that exes have tried to teach me. I just don't. I don't retain that information. I'll make you guys a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I'll make you guys a bowl of cereal. Like, you know, I lack that quality. But I always eat on the run as well. I'm constantly eating, you know, fast food or Wawa on the go, or, you know, something like that, because I'm barely ever home except for when I shoot these videos.